Before we begin, imagine this question. How many world-changing ideas die quietly in meeting rooms, ignored not because they're wrong, but because of who said them? This documentary explores one such moment. An overlooked suggestion, a dismissed voice, and a decision that nearly destroyed a billion-dollar company. What happened next didn't just shock the boardroom. It rewrote the future of an entire organization. This is a fictional story, but every emotion, power dynamic, and lesson mirrors reality. It's about leadership, pride, and the unexpected hero who saved a company by refusing to stay invisible. The company was called North Star Dynamics, a fast-growing global tech firm headquartered in San Francisco. Known for its aggressive expansion and sleek branding, North Star was once the darling of investors. Its CEO, Richard Halston, was celebrated as a visionary. Sharp suits, sharper tongue, and absolute confidence. He believed speed mattered more than consensus, and instinct mattered more than process. Under his leadership, North Star scaled fast, but cracked were forming beneath the surface. Market competition was intensifying, customer trust was slipping, and internally, many employees felt unheard, especially those far from the executive spotlight. Thousands of miles away from the glass towers of San Francisco, in a modest office in Manila, worked Miguel Alvarez, a Filipino data systems analyst. Miguel wasn't a senior manager or a public speaker. He was quiet, observant, and deeply analytical. He had joined North Star through its offshore talent program, grateful for the opportunity and determined to prove his worth. While others chased promotions, Miguel focused on patterns, customer behavior, back-end inefficiencies, and anomalies no one else seemed interested in investigating. Over months, Miguel noticed something alarming. North Star's flagship product, a subscription-based logistics platform, was bleeding users but not in obvious ways. The churn reports blamed pricing and market saturation, yet Miguel's deeper analysis revealed a different truth. A small delay in system synchronization was compounding across regions, causing invisible errors for enterprise clients. These errors weren't loud enough to trigger alerts, but they eroded trust silently. Miguel ran simulations, built models, and became convinced. If ignored, this flaw would collapse North Star's largest contracts within a year. Miguel did what he believed was right. He documented everything, charts, projections, risk assessments, and submitted a proposal through the official internal innovation channel. Weeks passed with no response. Eventually, an automated rejection arrived, not aligned with current strategic priorities. Refusing to give up, Miguel refined the proposal and requested 5 minutes during a global virtual town hall Q&A. Against the odds, his question was selected. For the first time, Miguel had a direct line to the CEO. North Star lost its first major European client, then another in Asia. The official explanation was post-pandemic restructuring, but internally, panic began to spread. Support tickets surged. Engineers applied temporary fixes, but nothing stuck. Revenue projections were revised downward twice in one quarter. Richard Halston remained confident in public, but behind closed doors, the board demanded answers he didn't have. Were spent diagnosing symptoms instead of causes. Morale plummeted, especially in offshore offices that felt increasingly invisible. Miguel watched quietly as events unfolded exactly as his models predicted. He updated his simulations weekly, now showing a worst-case scenario, a cascading failure that could trigger regulatory scrutiny and shareholder revolt. He debated staying silent, but something inside him refused. The company had ignored his idea, but he couldn't ignore the consequences. This time, Miguel didn't go through official channels. He sent a detailed report directly to a mid-level product director he trusted, attaching historical data, and forward projections. The director, skeptical at first, forwarded it to an engineering VP. Within days, a small internal task force was formed, quietly, without executive fanfare. When engineers replicated Miguel's findings, the room went silent. The flaw wasn't just real, it was embedded deep in the system's core. The task force faced a dilemma. Fixing the issue required a partial system shutdown and a redesign that would cost time, money, and public embarrassment. Escalating this to the CEO meant admitting that a junior offshore analyst had seen what top leadership missed. Still, fact were facts. The VP requested an emergency board briefing. Richard Halston walked into the room confident and walked out shaken. For the first time, his certainty cracked under the weight of undeniable data. When Richard asked who discovered the issue, the answer stunned him. A systems analyst in Manila, someone said. There was a pause, longer than anyone expected. Richard remembered the town hall question, vaguely. Suddenly, the dismissed voice had a name, a face, and proof. The board authorized immediate action based on Miguel's proposal. North Star announced a proactive platform upgrade, framing it as innovation rather than repair. Internally, everything changed overnight. Miguel was invited to join global meetings, no longer as a silent observer, but as a lead contributor. The redesign was brutal, long hours, complex trade-offs, and constant pressure, but it worked. Client complaints slowed, then stopped. Contracts were renewed. Analysts praised North Star's unexpected turnaround. What the public never saw was the humility forced upon leadership. Richard Halston, once dismissive, now listened more than he spoke. As stability returned, the board conducted a deeper review, not just of systems, but of culture. How many other ideas have been ignored? How much risk was buried under hierarchy? North Star restructured its innovation pipeline, giving equal weight to insight regardless of location or title. For Miguel, recognition came quietly. He was promoted not as a reward, but as a responsibility. He accepted, knowing the work wasn't about status. It was about preventing silence. In a private conversation months later, Richard apologized to Miguel. It wasn't dramatic or emotional, but it was sincere. He admitted that confidence had become arrogance, and speed had replaced listening. Miguel responded respectfully, explaining that talent exists everywhere, but opportunity doesn't. That conversation marked a turning point. Leadership training at North Star began featuring this case, not as a success story, but as a warning. This is where part 2 of our story truly begins, not with recovery, but with reflection, because saving the company was only half the journey. The other half was redefining leadership in a globalized world. North Star's survival forced executives to confront an uncomfortable truth. Innovation doesn't always speak with an accent you expect or come from an office you can see. Sometimes it arrives quietly from someone watching closely while others talk. Miguel returned to Manila a different man, not changed by power, but by perspective. He mentored younger analysts, encouraging them to document, question, and persist. He told them the truth. Being ignored doesn't mean being wrong. His story spread internally, becoming almost mythic. New hires heard it during onboarding. For many offshore employees, it was the first time they felt truly seen. Meanwhile, Richard Halston's public image evolved. Interviews once filled with bold predictions now included careful language about collaboration and inclusion. Investors noticed not weakness but maturity. North Star's valuation stabilized, then grew. Ironically, the company's greatest strength became what it once ignored: distributed intelligence. The idea that insight could come from anywhere was no longer theoretical. It was proven. This fictional story reflects a real pattern across industries. Companies fail not because of a lack of ideas, but because of selective listening. Hierarchies filter truth. Bias silences warning signs. And often, those closest to the problem are furthest from power. Miguel's experience symbolizes countless professionals whose ideas are dismissed due to geography, accent, or title. What saved North Star wasn't just one idea. It was the courage to revisit it, the willingness to admit a mistake before it became fatal, and the humility to accept that leadership is not about having all the answers, but about recognizing when someone else does. These lessons don't appear on balance sheets, but they determine survival. In the end, no headlines named Miguel Alvarez. No viral posts celebrated his contribution. But the company stood, employees kept their jobs, and clients regained trust. Sometimes, impact doesn't come with applause. It comes with quiet continuity. The systems ran. The damage stopped. And a voice once ignored became impossible to forget. If there's one takeaway from this story, it's this: pay attention to the quiet ones. In meetings, in emails, in overlooked proposals. Innovation doesn't always announce itself loudly. Often, it whispers, waiting for someone willing to listen. For CEOs, founders, and leaders watching this, the message is clear. Your next breakthrough might already be in your inbox, written by someone you've never met. The question is not whether ideas exist, but whether your culture allows them to survive long enough to matter. For employees, especially those far from headquarters, this story offers a different lesson. Persistence matters. Documentation matters. And while recognition isn't guaranteed, integrity is. Miguel didn't save the company for praise. He did it because the truth deserved a chance. North Star Dynamics went on to thrive, but its legacy wasn't just financial recovery. It became a case study in business schools, not about technology, but about listening, about how ignoring the wrong person almost ended everything. This documentary-style story may be fictional, but its warning is real. Companies rise and fall on decisions made in moments of ego or humility. And sometimes, the smallest voice carries the heaviest truth. So the next time an idea challenges your assumptions, pause. Ask questions. Lean in. Because what you ignore today might be what saves you tomorrow. In boardrooms and back offices alike, the future is being quietly calculated by people like Miguel, watching, thinking, waiting. The difference between collapse and survival may be nothing more than whether you choose to listen. And that is how a Filipino employee's ignored idea didn't just change a company. It revealed what leadership truly means. Thank you for watching. If this story made you think differently about leadership, innovation, or overlooked talent, then its purpose has been fulfilled.